Shalom, Ashbaka. Thank you for joining me on my YouTube channel, Tina Ali Shaba. Today we'll be picking up back in the book of Jasher, or in this case, we'll be reading out of the Cepher, so the Cepher of Yashar, and we'll be reading chapters 21 through 25. Now, if you haven't read with us the previous chapters, you can go into the playlist and you'll find the Cepher of Yashar amongst other books or Sepharim that I have read in the course of establishing this channel. Now, if you haven't already, grab your Cepher or the Hallelujah Scriptures. Now let's get started. Chapter 1. And it was at that time, at the end of a year and 4 months of Avraham's dwelling in the land of the Palestine in Gerar, that Yahuah visited Sarah. And Yahuah remembered her, and she conceived and bore a son to Avraham. And Avraham called the name of the son which was born to him, which Sarah bore to him, Yitzchak. And Avraham circumcised his son Yitzchak at 8 days old, as Yahuah had commanded Avraham to do unto his seed after him. And Avraham was 100, and Sarah 90 years old, when Yitzchak was born to them. And the child grew up, and he was weaned, and Avraham made a great feast upon the day that Yitzchak was weaned. And Shem and Eber, and all the great people of the land, and Abimelech, king of the Palestine, and his servants, and Pichol, the captain of his host, came to eat and drink and rejoice at the feast which Avraham made upon the day of his son Yitzchak's being weaned. Also Terach, the father of Avraham, and Nachor his brother, came from Haran, they and all belonging to them, for they greatly rejoiced on hearing that a son had been born to Sarah. And they came to Avraham, and they ate and drank at the feast which Avraham made upon the day of Yitzchak being weaned. And Terach and Nachor rejoiced with Avraham, and they remained with him many days in the land of the Palestine. At that time, Serug the son of Ru died in the first year of the birth of Yitzchak, son of Avraham. And all the days of Serug were 239 years, and he died. And Ishmael, the son of Avraham, was grown up in those days. He was 14 years old when Sarah bore Yitzchak to Avraham. And Yahuah was with Ishmael, the son of Avraham, and he grew up, and he learned to use the bow, and became an archer. And when Yitzchak was 5 years old, he was sitting with Ishmael at the door of the tent. And Ishmael came to Yitzchak and seated himself opposite to him. And he took the bow and drew it and put the arrow in it and intended to slay Yitzchak. And Sarah saw the act which Ishmael desired to do to her son Yitzchak, and it grieved her exceedingly on account of her son. And she sent for Avraham and said to him, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for her son shall not be heir with my son, for thus did he seek to do unto him this day. And Avraham hearkened to the voice of Sarah, and he rose up early in the morning, and he took 2 loaves and a bottle of water, which he gave to Hagar, and sent her away with her son. And Hagar went with her son to the wilderness, and they dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, with the inhabitants of the wilderness. And Ishmael was an archer, and he dwelt in the wilderness a long time. And he and his mother afterward went to the land of Mitzrayim, and they dwelt there. And Hagar took a woman for her son from Mitzrayim, and her name was Merivah. And the woman of Ishmael conceived, and bore 4 sons and 2 daughters. And Ishmael and his mother and his woman and children afterward went and returned to the wilderness. And they made themselves tents in the wilderness in which they dwelt, and they continued to travel, and then to rest monthly and yearly. And Yahuah gave Ishmael flocks and herds and tents on account of Avraham his father, and the man increased in cattle. And Ishmael dwelt in deserts and in tents, traveling and resting for a long time, and he did not see the face of his father. And then some time after, Avraham said to Sarah his woman, I will go and see my son Ishmael, for I have a desire to see him, for I have not seen him for a long time. And Avraham rode upon one of his camels to the wilderness to seek his son Ishmael, for he heard that he was dwelling in a tent in the wilderness with all belonging to him. And Avraham went to the wilderness, and he reached the tent of Ishmael about noon, and he asked after Ishmael, and he found the woman of Ishmael sitting in the tent with her children, and Ishmael, her man, and his mother were not with them. And Avraham asked the woman of Ishmael, saying, Where has Ishmael gone? And she said, He has gone to the field to hunt. And Avraham was still mounted upon the camel, for he would not get off to the ground, as he swore to his woman Sarah that he would not get off from the camel. And Avraham said to Ishmael's woman, My daughter, give me a little water that I may drink, for I am fatigued from the journey. And Ishmael's woman answered and said to Avraham, We have neither water nor bread. And she continued sitting in the tent and did not notice Avraham, neither did she ask him who he was. But she was beating her children in the tent, and she was cursing them. And she also cursed her man Ishmael and reproached him. And Avraham heard the words of Ishmael's woman to her children, and he was very angry and displeased. And Avraham called to the woman to come out to him from the tent. And the woman came and stood opposite to Avraham, for Avraham was still mounted upon the camel. And Avraham said to Ishmael's woman, When your man Ishmael returns home, say these words to him. A very old man from the land of the Pelishtim came hither to seek you, and thus was his appearance and figure. I did not ask him who he was, and seeing you were not here, he spoke unto me and said, When Ishmael your man returns, tell him thus did this man say, When you come home, put away this nail of the tent which you have placed here, and place another nail in its stead. And Avraham finished his instructions to the woman, and he returned and went off on the camel homeward. And after that Ishmael came from the chase, he and his mother, and he returned to the tent. And his woman spoke these words to him, A very old man from the land of the Pelishtim came to seek you, and thus was his appearance and figure. I did not ask him who he was. And seeing you were not at home, he said to me, When your man comes home, tell him, Thus says the old man, Put away the nail of the tent which you have placed here, and place another nail in its stead. And Ishmael heard the words of his woman, and he knew that it was his father, and that his woman did not honor him. And Ishmael understood his father's words that he had spoken to his woman, and Ishmael hearkened to the voice of his father. And Ishmael cast off that woman, and she went away. And Ishmael afterward went to the land of Canaan, and he took another woman, and he brought her to his tent, to the place where he then dwelt. And at the end of 3 years, Avraham said, I will go again and see Ishmael my son, for I have not seen him for a long time. And he rode upon his camel and went to the wilderness, and he reached the tent of Ishmael about noon. And he asked after Ishmael, and his woman came out of the tent, and she said, He is not here, my Adonai, for he has gone to hunt in the fields and to feed the camels. And the woman said to Avraham, Turn in, my Adonai, into the tent, and eat a morsel of bread, for your soul must be wearied on account of the journey. And Avraham said to her, I will not stop, for I am in haste to continue my journey. But give me a little water to drink, for I have thirst. And the woman hastened and ran into the tent, and she brought out water and bread to Avraham. And she placed before him, and she urged him to eat, and he ate and drank. and his heart was comforted, and he blessed his son Ishmael. And he finished his meal, and he blessed Yahuah, and he said to Ishmael's woman, "When Ishmael comes home, say these words to him. A very old man from the land of the Pelishtim came hither, and asked after you, and you were not here. And I brought him out bread and water, and he ate and drank, and his heart was comforted. And he spoke these words to me, When Ishmael your son comes home, say unto him, The nail of the tent which you have is very good. Do not put it away from the tent." And Avraham finished commanding the woman, and he rode off to his home to the land of the Pelishtim. And when Ishmael came to his tent, his woman went forth to meet him with joy and a cheerful heart. And she said to him, "A man came here from the land of the Pelishtim, and thus was his appearance. And he asked after you, and you were not here. So I brought out bread and water, and he ate and drank, and his heart was comforted. And he spoke these words to me, When Ishmael your man comes home, say to him, The nail of the tent which you have is very good. Do not put it away from the tent." And Ishmael knew that it was his father, and that his woman had honored him. And Yahuah blessed Ishmael. Chapter 22. And Ishmael then rose up and took his woman and his children and his cattle and all belonging to him, and he journeyed from there, and he went to his father in the land of the Pelishtim. And Avraham related to Ishmael his son the transaction with the first woman that Ishmael took, according to what she did. And Ishmael and his children dwelt with Avraham many days in that land. And Avraham dwelt in the land of the Pelishtim a long time. And the days increased and reached 26 years. And after that Avraham with his servants and all belonging to him went from the land of the Pelishtim, and removed to a great distance, and they came near to Chevron, and they remained there. And the servants of Abraham dug wells of water, and Avraham and all belonging to him dwelt by the water. And the servants of Abimelech king of the Pelishtim heard the report that Abraham's servants had dug wells of water in the borders of the land. And they came and quarreled with the servants of Abraham, and they robbed them of the great well which they had dug. And Abimelech king of the Pelishtim heard of this affair, and he, with Pichol, the captain of his hosts, and 20 of his men, came to Avraham. And Abimelech spoke to Avraham concerning his servants. And Avraham rebuked Abimelech concerning the well of which his servants had robbed him. And Abimelech said to Avraham, As Yahuah lives, who created the whole earth, I did not hear of the act which my servants did unto your servants until this day. And Avraham took 7 ewe lambs and gave them to Abimelech, saying, Take these, I pray you, from my hands, that it may be a testimony for me that I dug this well. And Abimelech took the 7 ewe lambs which Avraham had given to him, for he had also given him cattle and herds in abundance. And Abimelech swore to Avraham concerning the well. Therefore he called that well Beersheba, for there they both swore concerning it. And they both cut a covenant in Beersheba, and Abimelech rose up with Pichol, the captain of his hosts, and all his men, and they returned to the land of the Pelishtim. And Avraham and all belonging to him dwelt in Beersheba, and he was in that land a long time. And Avraham planted a large grove in Beersheba, and he made to it 4 gates facing the 4 sides of the earth. And he planted a vineyard in it, so that if a traveler came to Avraham, he entered any gate which was in his road, and remained there, and ate and drank, and satisfied himself, and then departed. For the house of Avraham was open to the sons of men that passed and repassed, who came daily to eat and drink in the house of Avraham. And any man who had hunger and came to Avraham's house, Avraham would give him bread, that he might eat and drink and be satisfied. And anyone that came naked to his house, he would clothe with garments as he might clothe, and give him silver and gold, and make known to him Yahuah, who had created him in the earth. This did Avraham all his life. And Avraham and his children and all belonging to him dwelt in Beersheba. And he pitched his tent as far as Hebron. And Avraham's brother Nachor and his family and all belonging to them dwelt in Haran, for they did not come with Avraham to the land of Canaan. And children were born to Nachor, which Milcah the daughter of Haran, and sister to Sarah, Avraham's woman, bore to him. And these are the names of those that were born to him: Utz, Buz, Chemiel, Kasid, Kazol, Pildash, Yidlaf, and Bethiel, being 8 sons. These are the children of Milcah, which she bore to Nachor, Avraham's brother. And Nachor had a concubine, and her name was Ruamah. And she also bore to Nachor Zebah, Gahash, Takash, and Mahakah, being 4 sons. And the children that were born to Nachor were 12 sons besides his daughters, and they also had children born to them in Haran. And the children of Utz, the firstborn of Nachor, were Avi, Kereph, Gadin, Malus, and Deborah, their sister. And the sons of Buz were Barachel, Naamath, Sheva, and Maranu. And the sons of Chemiel were Aram and Rekav. And the sons of Kesed were Anamlech, Mashai, Banan, Yaphi. And the sons of Kazo were Pildash, Maki, and Ophir. And the sons of Pildash were Arud, Kamun, Marad, and Molech. And the sons of Yitlaf were Mashun, Kashun, and Mutzi. And the children of Bethiel were Zachor, Laban, and their sister Rivkah. These are the families of the children of Nachor that were born to them in Haran. And Aram, the son of Chemiel, and Rekav, his brother, went away from Haran, and they found a valley in the land of the river Parath. And they built a city there, and they called the name of the city after the name of Bethor, the son of Aram. That is Aram Naharayim unto this day. And the children of Kesed also went to dwell where they could find a place. And they went and they found a valley opposite of the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they there built themselves a city, and they called the name of the city Kesed after the name of their father. That is the land of Kastimah unto this day. And the Kasdim dwelt in the land, and they were fruitful and multiplied exceedingly. And Terach, father of Nachor and Avraham, went and took another woman in his old age, and her name was Pelilah. And she conceived and bore him a son, and he called his name Zovah. And Terach lived 25 years after he begot Zovah. And Terach died in that year, that is in the 35th year of the birth of Yashar, son of Avraham. And the days of Terach were 205 years, and he was buried in Haran. And Zovah, the son of Terach, lived 30 years, and he begot Aram, Aklis, and Merik. And Aram, son of Zovah, son of Terach, had 3 women, and he begot 12 sons and 3 daughters. And Yahuah gave to Aram, the son of Zovah, riches and possessions, and abundance of cattle, and flocks, and herds, and the man increased greatly. And Aram, the son of Zovah, and his brother, and all his household journeyed from Haran, and they went to dwell where they should find a place, for their property was too great to remain in Haran. For they could not stop in Haran together with their brethren, the children of Nachor. And Aram, the son of Zovah, went with his brethren, and they found a valley at a distance toward the eastern country, and they dwelt there. And they also built a city there, and they called the name thereof Aram, after the name of their eldest brother, that is Aram Zovah, to this day. And Yitzchak, the son of Avraham, was growing up in those days. And Avraham, his father, taught him the way of Yahuah, to know Yahuah, and Yahuah was with him. And when Yashak was 37 years old, Ishmael his brother was going about with him in the tent. And Ishmael boasted of himself to Yashak, saying, I was 13 years old when Yahuah spoke to my father to circumcise us, and I did according to the word of Yahuah, which he spoke to my father, and I gave my soul unto Yahuah, and I did not transgress his word, which he commanded my father. And Yashak answered Ishmael, saying, Why do you boast to me about this, about a little bit of your flesh, which you did take from your body, concerning which Yahuah commanded you? As Yahuah lives, the Yahuah of my father Avraham, if Yahuah should say unto my father, Take now your son Yashak, and bring him up an offering before me, I would not refrain, but I would joyfully accede to it. And Yahuah heard the word that Yashak spoke to Ishmael, and it seemed good in the sight of Yahuah, and he thought to try Avraham in this matter. And the day arrived when the sons of Yahuah came and placed themselves before Yah, and Satan also came with the sons of Yahuah before Yahuah. And Yahuah said unto Satan, Whence come you? And Satan answered Yahuah and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and walking up and down in it. And Yahuah said to Satan, What is your word to me concerning all the children of the earth? And Satan answered Yahuah and said, I have seen all the children of the earth who serve you, and remember you when they require anything from you. And when you give them the thing which they require from you, they sit at their ease and forsake you, and they remember you no more. Have you seen Avraham, the son of Terach, who at first had no children, and he served you and erected altars to you wherever he came, and he brought up offerings upon them, and he proclaimed your name continually to all the children of the earth. And now that his son Yashak is born to him, he has forsaken you. He has made a great feast for all the inhabitants of the land. And Yahuah he has forgotten. For amidst all that he has done, he brought you no offering, neither ascending smoke offering, nor peace offering, neither ox, lamb, nor goat of all that he killed on the day that his son was weaned. Even from the time of his son's birth till now, being 37 years, he built no altar before you, nor brought any offering to you, for he saw that you did give what he requested before you, and he therefore forsook you. And Yahuah said to Satan, Have you thus considered my servant Avraham? For there is none like him upon the earth, a perfect and upright man before me, one that fears Yahuah and avoids evil. As I live, where I say unto him, Bring Yashak your son before me, he would not withhold him from me, much more if I told him to bring up an ascending smoke offering before me from his flock or herds. And Satan answered Yahuah and said, Speak then now unto Avraham as you have said, and you will see whether he will not this day transgress and cast aside your words. Chapter 23. At that time the word of Yahuah came to Avraham, and he said unto him, Avraham, and he said, Here I am. And he said to him, Take now your son, your Yakid, whom you love, even Yashak, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there for an ascending smoke offering upon one of the mountains, which shall be shown to you. For there you will see a cloud and the glory of Yahuah. And Avraham said within himself, How shall I separate my son Yashak from Sarah his mother, in order to bring him up for an ascending smoke offering before Yahuah? And Avraham came into the tent, and he sat before Sarah his woman, and he spoke these words to her. My son Yashak is grown up, and he has not for some time studied the service of Yahuah. Now tomorrow I will go and bring him to Shem, and Eber his son, and there he will learn the ways of Yahuah, for they will teach him to know Yahuah, as well as to know that when he prays continually before Yahuah, he will answer him. Therefore, there he will know the way of serving Yahuah. And Sarah said, You have spoken well, go my Adoni, and do unto him as you have said, but remove him not a great distance from me, neither let him remain there too long, for my soul is bound within his soul. And Avraham said unto Sarah, My daughter, let us pray to Yahuah, that he may do good with us. And Sarah took her son Yishak, and he abode all that night with her, and she kissed and embraced him, and gave him instructions till morning. And she said to him, O my son, how can my soul separate itself from you? And she still kissed him and embraced him, and she gave Avraham instructions concerning him. And Sarah said to Avraham, O Adoni, I pray you take heed of your son, and place your eyes over him, for I have no other son nor daughter but him. O forsake him not. If he be hungry, give him bread, and if he be thirsty, give him water to drink. Do not let him go on foot, neither let him sit in the sun. Neither let him go by himself in the road, neither force him from whatsoever he may desire, but do unto him as he may say to you. And Sarah wept bitterly the whole night on account of Yishak, and she gave him instructions till morning. And in the morning Sarah selected a very fine and beautiful garment from those garments which she had in the house that Abimelech had given to her. And she dressed Yishak her son therewith. And she put a turban upon his head, and she enclosed a precious stone in the top of the turban. And she gave them provision for the road. And they went forth, and Yishak went with his father Avraham, and some of their servants accompanied them to see them off the road. And Sarah went out with them, and she accompanied them upon the road to see them off. And they said to her, Return to the tent. And when Sarah heard the words of her son Yishak, she wept bitterly, and Avraham her man wept with her, and their son wept with them a great weeping. Also those who went with them wept greatly. And Sarah caught hold of her son Yishak, and she held him in her arms, and she embraced him and continued to weep with him. And Sarah said, Who knows if after this day I shall ever see you again? And they still wept together, Avraham, Sarah, and Yishak, and all those that accompanied them on the road wept with them. And Sarah afterward turned away from her son, weeping bitterly, and all her menservants and maidservants returned with her to the tent. And Avraham went with Yishak his son to bring him up as an offering before Yahuah, as he had commanded him. And Avraham took 2 of his young men with him, Ishmael the son of Hagar, and Eliezer his servant, and they went together with them. And while they were walking in the road, the young men spoke these words to themselves. And Ishmael said to Eliezer, Now my father Avraham is going with Yishak to bring him up for an ascending smoke offering to Yahuah, as he commanded him. Now when he returns, he will give unto me all that he possesses to inherit after him, for I am his firstborn. And Eliezer answered Ishmael and said, Surely Avraham did cast you away with your mother, and swear that you should not inherit anything of all he possesses. And to whom will he give all that he has, with all his treasures? But unto me his servant, who has been faithful in his house, who has served him night and day, and has done all that he desired me. To me he will bequeath at his death all that he possesses. And while Avraham was proceeding with his son Yishak along the road, Satan came and appeared to Avraham in the figure of a very aged man, humble and of a contrite ruach. And he approached Avraham and said to him, Are you silly or brutish that you would go to do this day to your Yakid? For Yahuah gave you a son in your latter days, in your old age. And will you go and slaughter him this day because he committed no violence? And will you cause the soul of your Yakid to perish from the earth? Do you not know and understand that this thing cannot be from Yahuah? For Yahuah cannot do unto man such evil upon earth, to say to him, Go slaughter your child. And Avraham heard this, and knew that this was a word of Satan, who endeavored to draw him aside from the way of Yahuah. But Avraham would not hearken to the voice of Satan, and Avraham rebuked him so that he went away. And Satan returned and came to Yashak. And he appeared unto Yashak in the figure of a young man, comely and well-favored. And he approached Yashak and said unto him, Do you not know and understand that your old silly father brings you to slaughter this day for naught? Now therefore, my son, do not listen nor attend to him, for he is a silly old man, and let not your precious soul and beautiful figure be lost from the earth. And Yashak heard this, and said unto Avraham, Have you heard, my father, that which this man has spoken? Even thus he has spoken. And Avraham answered his son Yashak, and said to him, Take heed of him, and do not listen to his words, nor attend to him, for he is Satan, endeavoring to draw us aside this day from the commands of Yahuah. And Avraham still rebuked Satan, and Satan went from them. And seeing he could not prevail over them, he hid himself from them, and he went and passed before them in the road. And he transformed himself to a large brook of water in the road. And Avraham and Yashak and his 2 young men reached that place, and they saw a brook large and powerful as the mighty waters. And they entered the brook, and passing through it, and the waters at first reached their legs. And they went deeper into the brook, and the waters reached up to their necks. And they were all terrified on account of the water. And while they were going over the brook, Avraham recognized that place, and they knew that there was no water there before. And Avraham said to his son Yashak, I know this place in which there was no brook nor water. Now therefore it is Satan who does all this to us, to draw us aside this day from the commands of Yahuah. And Avraham rebuked him and said unto him, Yahuah rebuke you, O Satan, be gone from us, for we go by the commands of Yahuah. And Satan was terrified at the voice of Avraham, and he went away from them, and the place again became dry land as it was at first. And Avraham went with Yashak toward the place that Yahuah had told him. And on the 3rd day Avraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place at a distance which Yahuah had told him of. And a pillar of fire appeared to him that reached from the earth to heaven, and a cloud of glory upon the mountain, and the glory of Yahuah was seen in the cloud. And Avraham said to Yashak, My son, do you see in that mountain, which we perceive at a distance, that which I see upon it? And Yashak answered and said unto his father, I see, and lo, a pillar of fire, and a cloud, and the glory of Yahuah is seen upon the cloud. And Avraham knew that his son Yashak was accepted before Yahuah for a sending smoke offering. And Avraham said to Eliezer and unto Ishmael his son, Do you also see that which is upon the mountain, which is at a distance? And they answered and said, We see nothing more than like the other mountains of the earth. And Avraham knew that they were not accepted before Yahuah to go with them. And Avraham said to them, Abide you here with the ass, while I and Yashak my son will go to yonder mount and worship there before Yahuah, and then return to you. And Eliezer and Ishmael remained in that place, as Avraham had commanded. And Avraham took wood for an ascending smoke offering, and placed it upon his son Yashak. And he took the fire and the knife, and they both went to that place. And when they were going along, Yashak said to his father, Behold, I see here the fire and wood. And where then is the lamb that is to be the ascending smoke offering before Yahuah? And Avraham answered his son Yashak, saying, Yahuah has made choice of you, my son, to be a perfect ascending smoke offering instead of the lamb. And Yashak said unto his father, I will do all that Yahuah spoke to you with joy and cheerfulness of heart. And Avraham said unto Yashak his son, Is there in your heart any thought or counsel concerning this, which is not proper? Tell me, my son, I pray you, O my son, conceal it not from me. And Yishak answered his father, Avraham, and said unto him, O my father, as Yahuah lives, and as your soul lives, there is nothing in my heart to cause me to deviate either to the right or to the left from the word that he has spoken to you. Neither limb nor muscle has moved or stirred at this, nor is there in my heart any thought or evil counsel concerning this. But I am of joyful and cheerful heart in this matter. And I say, Blessed is Yahuah, who has this day chosen me to be an ascending smoke offering before him. And Avraham greatly rejoiced at the words of Yishak. And they went on and came together to that place that Yahuah had spoken of. And Avraham approached to build the altar in that place. And Avraham was weeping, and Yishak took stones and mortar until they had finished building the altar. And Avraham took the wood and placed it in order upon the altar which he had built. And he took his son Yishak and bound him in order to place him upon the wood which was upon the altar, to slay him for an ascending smoke offering before Yahuah. And Yishak said to his father, Bind me securely, and then place me upon the altar, lest I should turn and move and break loose from the force of the knife upon my flesh, and thereby profane the ascending smoke offering. And Avraham did so. And Yishak still said to his father, O my father, when you have slain me and burnt me for an offering, take with you that which shall remain of my ashes to bring to Sarah my mother, and say to her, This is the sweet-smelling savor of Yishak. But do not tell her this if she should sit near a well or upon any high place, lest she should cast her soul after me and die. And Avraham heard the words of Yishak, and he lifted up his voice and wept when Yishak spoke these words. And Avraham's tears gushed down upon Yishak his son. And Yishak wept bitterly, and he said to his father, Hasten you, O my father, do with me the will of Yahuah, as he has commanded you. And the hearts of Avraham and Yishak rejoiced at this thing which Yahuah had commanded them. But the eye wept bitterly, while the heart rejoiced. And Avraham bound his son Yishak, and placed him on the altar upon the wood. And Yishak stretched forth his neck upon the altar before his father. And Avraham stretched forth his hand to take the knife to slay his son, as an ascending smoke offering before Yahuah. At that time the angels of mercy came before Yahuah, and spoke to him concerning Yishak, saying, O Yahuah, you are a merciful and compassionate king over all that you have created in heaven and in earth, and you support them all. Give therefore ransom and redemption instead of your servant Yishak, and pity and have compassion upon Avraham and Yishak his son, who are this day performing your commands. Have you seen, O Yahuah, how Yishak, the son of Avraham, your servant, is bound down to the slaughter like an animal? Now therefore let your pity be roused for them, O Yahuah. At that time Yahuah appeared unto Avraham, and called to him from heaven, and said unto him, Lay not your hand upon the lad, neither do you anything unto him, for now I know that you fear Yahuah in performing this act, and not withholding your son, your Yakid, from me. And Avraham lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, a ram was caught in a thicket by his horns. That was the ram which Yahuah had created in the earth, in the day that he had made earth and heaven. For Yahuah had prepared this ram from that day to be an ascending smoke offering instead of Yishak. And this ram was advancing toward Avraham when Satan caught a hold of him, and entangled his horns in the thicket, that he might not advance towards Avraham, in order that Avraham might slay his son. And Avraham, seeing the ram advancing to him, and Satan withholding him, fetched him, and brought him before the altar, and he loosened his son Yishak from his binding, and he put the ram in his stead. And Avraham killed the ram upon the altar, and brought it up as an offering in the place of his son Yishak. And Avraham sprinkled some of the blood of the ram upon the altar, And he exclaimed and said, "This is the place of my son, and may this be considered this day as the blood of my son before Yahuah." And all that Avraham did on this occasion by the altar, he would exclaim and say, "This is the room of my son, and may it this day be considered before Yahuah in the place of my son." And Avraham finished the whole of the service by the altar, and the service was accepted before Yahuah, and was accounted as if it had been Yishak. And Yahuah blessed Avraham and his seed on that day. And Satan went to Sarah, and he appeared to her in the figure of an old man, very humble and meek. And Avraham was yet engaged in the sending smoke offering before Yahuah. And he said unto her, "Do you not know all the work that Avraham has made with your Yakid this day? For he took Yishak and built an altar and killed him, and brought him up as a sacrifice upon the altar. And Yishak cried and wept before his father, but he looked not at him, neither did he have compassion over him." And Satan repeated these words, and he went away from her. And Sarah heard all the words of Satan, and she imagined him to be an old man from amongst the sons of men, who had been with her son, and had come and told her these things. And Sarah lifted up her voice, and wept, and cried out bitterly on account of her son. And she threw herself upon the ground, and she cast dust upon her head, and she said, "O my son, Yishak, oh that I had this day died instead of you." And she continued to weep, and said, "It grieves me for you, O my son Yishak, oh that I had died this day in your stead." And she still continued to weep, and said, "It grieves me for you after that I have reared you, and have brought you up. Now my joy is turned into mourning over you. I that had a longing for you, and cried and prayed to Yahuah till I bore you at 90 years old. And now you have served this day for the knife and the fire, to be made an offering. But I console myself with you, my son, in its being the word of Yahuah, for you did perform the command of your Aluah. For who can transgress the word of our Yah, in whose hands is the soul of every living creature? You are just, O Yahuah, for all your works are good and righteous. For I also am rejoiced with your word which you did command, and while my eye weeps bitterly, my heart rejoices." And Sarah laid her head upon the bosom of one of her handmaids, and she became as still as stone. She afterward rose and went about making inquiries till she came to Chevron, and she inquired of all those whom she met walking in the road, and no one could tell her what happened to her son. And she came with her maidservants and menservants to Kirat Arba, which is Chevron, and she asked concerning her son, and she remained there while she sent some of her servants to seek where Avraham had gone with Yishak. They went to seek him in the house of Shem and Eber, and they could not find him. And they sought throughout the land, and he was not there. And behold, Satan came to Sarah in the shape of an old man, and he came and stood before her, and said unto her, I spoke falsely unto you, for Avraham did not kill his son, and he is not dead. And when she heard the word, her joy was so exceedingly violent on account of her son, that her soul went out through joy. She died and was gathered to her people. And when Avraham had finished his service, he returned with his son Yishak to his young men, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba, and they came home. And Avraham sought for Sarah, and could not find her, and made inquiries concerning her. And they said unto him, She went as far as Chevron to seek you both where you had gone, for thus was she informed. And Avraham and Yishak went to her to Chevron. And when they found that she was dead, they lifted up their voices and wept bitterly over her. And Yishak fell upon his mother's face and wept over her. And he said, O my mother, how have you left me? And where have you gone? Oh, how have you left me? And Avraham and Yishak wept greatly, and all their servants wept with them on account of Sarah. And they mourned over her a great and heavy mourning. Chapter 24. And the life of Sarah was 127 years, and Sarah died. And Avraham rose up before his dead to seek a burial place to bury his woman Sarah. And he went and spoke to the children of Keth and the inhabitants of the land, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you in your land. Give me a possession of a burial place in your land, that I may bury my dead from before me. And the children of Keth said unto Avraham, Behold, the land is before you. In the choice of our scepters, bury your dead, for no man shall withhold you from burying your dead. And Avraham said unto them, If you are agreeable to this, go and entreat for me to Ephron, the son of Zochar, requesting that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which is in the end of his field, and I will purchase it of him for whatsoever he desires for it. And Ephron dwelt among the children of Keth, and they went and called for him. And he came before Avraham, and Ephron said unto Avraham, Behold, all you require your servant will do. And Avraham said, No, but I will buy the cave in the field which you have for value, in order that it may be a possession for a burial place forever. And Ephron answered and said, Behold, the field and the cave are before you. Give whatever so you desire. And Avraham said, Only at full value will I buy it from your hand, and from the hands of those that go in at the gate of your city, and from the hand of your seed forever. And Ephron and all his brethren heard this, and Avraham weighed to Ephron 400 shekels of silver in the hands of Ephron, and in the hands of all his brethren. And Avraham wrote this transaction, and he wrote it and testified it with 4 witnesses. And these are the names of the witnesses: Amigal, son of Abishna the Kati, Adakaram, son of Ashinach the Kavi, Avdon, the son of Achiram the Gemari, Bagdil, the son of Abodish the Sodani. And Avraham took the Cepher of the purchase and placed it in his treasures. And these are the words that Avraham wrote in the Cepher, namely, that the cave in the field Avraham bought from Ephron the Kati, and from his seed, and from those that go out of his city, and from their seed forever, are to be purchased to Avraham and to his seed, and to those that go forth from his loins, for a possession of a burial place forever. And he put a signet to it and testified it with witnesses. And the field and the cave that was in it, and all that place were made sure unto Avraham, and unto his seed after him, from the children of Keth. Behold, it is before Mamre in Hebron, which is in the land of Canaan. And after this, Avraham buried his woman Sarah there, and that place and all its boundary became to Avraham and unto his seed for a possession of a burial place. And Avraham buried Sarah with pomp, as observed as the interment of kings, and she was buried in very fine and beautiful garments. And at her coffin was Shem, his sons Eber and Abimelech, together with Anar, Ashkol, and Mamre. And all the grandees of the land followed her coffin. And the days of Sarah were 127 years, and she died. And Avraham made a great and heavy mourning, and he performed the rites of mourning for 7 days. And all the inhabitants of the land comforted Avraham and Yishak his son on account of Sarah. And when the days of their mourning passed by, Avraham sent away his son Yishak, and he went to the house of Shem and Eber to learn the ways of Yahuah and his instructions. And Avraham remained there 3 years. At that time Avraham rose up with all his servants, and they went and returned homeward to Beersheba, and Avraham and all his servants remained in Beersheba. And at the revolution of the year, Abimelech, king of the Pelishtim, died in that year. He was 193 years old at his death. And Avraham went with his people to the land of the Pelishtim, and they comforted the whole household and all his servants. And he then turned and went home. And it was after the death of Abimelech that the people of Gerar took Abimelech his son, and he was only 12 years old, and they made him lie in the place of his father. And they called his name Abimelech after the name of his father, and thus was it their custom to do in Gerar. And Abimelech reigned instead of Abimelech his father, and he sat upon his throne. And Lot the son of Haran also died in those days, in the 39th year of the life of Yashar. And all the days that Lot lived were 140 years, and he died. And these are the children of Lot that were born to him by his daughters. The name of the firstborn was Moab, and the name of the second was Ben-Ammi. And the two sons of Lot went and took themselves women from the land of Canaan, and they bore children to them. And the children of Moab were Ed, Maon, Tarsus, and Canville, 4 sons. These are the fathers to the children of Moab unto this day. And all the families of the children of Lot went to dwell wherever they should light upon, for they were fruitful and increased abundantly. And they went and built themselves cities in the land where they dwelt, and they called the names of the cities which they built after their own names. And Nachor the son of Terach, brother to Avraham, died in those days in the 40th year of the life of Yashar. And all the days of Nachor were 170 years, and he died and was buried in Haran. And when Avraham heard that his brother was dead, he grieved sadly, and he mourned over his brother many days. And Avraham called for Eliezer, his head servant, to give him orders concerning his house. And he came and stood before him. And Avraham said to him, Behold, I am old. I do not know the day of my death, for I am advanced in days. Now therefore rise up, go forth, and do not take a woman for my son from this place and from this land, from the daughters of the Canaanim, amongst whom we dwell. But go to the land and to my birthplace, and take from thence a woman for my son. And Yahuah of heaven and earth, who took me from my father's house, and brought me to this place, and said unto me, To your seed will I give this land for an inheritance forever. He will send his angel before you, and prosper your way, that you may obtain a woman for my son, from my family, and from my father's house. And the servant answered his Adonai Avraham, and said, Behold, I go to take a woman for your son from there. But if the woman be not willing to follow me to this land, shall I take your son back to the land of your birthplace? And Avraham said unto him, Take heed that you bring not my son hither again. For Yahuah before whom I walked, he will send his angel before you and prosper your way. And Eliezer did as Avraham ordered him. And Eliezer swore unto Avraham his Adonai upon this matter. And Eliezer rose up and took 10 camels of the camels of his Adonai, and 10 men from his Adonai's servants with him. And they rose up and went to Haran, the city of Avraham and Nachor, in order to fetch a woman for Yashar, the son of Avraham. And while they were gone, Avraham sent to the house of Shem and Eber, and they brought from thence his son Yashar. And Yashar came home to his father's house to Beersheba, while Eliezer and his men came to Haran. And they stopped in the city by the watering place, and he made his camels to kneel down by the water, and they remained there. And Eliezer, Avraham's servant, prayed and said, O Yahuah of Avraham, send me, I pray you, good speed this day, and show kindness unto my Adonai, that you shall appoint this day a woman for my Adonai's son from his family. And Yahuah hearkened to the voice of Eliezer, for the sake of his servant Avraham. And he happened to meet with the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the woman of Nachor, brother to Avraham, and Eliezer came to her house. And Eliezer related to them all his concerns, and that he was Avraham's servant, and they greatly rejoiced at him. And they all blessed Yahuah who brought this thing about, and they gave him Rivkah, the daughter of Bethuel, for a woman for Yashar. And the young woman was of very comely appearance. She was a virgin, and Rivkah was 10 years old in those days. And Bethuel and Laban and his children made a feast on that night, and Eliezer and his men came, and ate and drank, and rejoiced there on that night. And Eleazar rose up in the morning, he and the men that were with him, and he called to the whole household of Bethuel, saying, Send me away that I may go to my Adonai. And they rose up and sent away Rivkah and her nurse, Deborah, the daughter of Utz, and they gave her silver and gold, men servants and maidservants, and they blessed her. And they sent Eleazar away with his men. And the servants took Rivkah, and he went and returned to his Adonai to the land of Canaan. And Yashar took Rivkah, and she became his woman, and he brought her into the tent. And Yashar was 40 years old when he took Rivkah, the daughter of his uncle Bethuel, for a woman. Chapter 25. And it was at that time that Avraham again took a woman in his old age, and her name was Keturah, from the land of Canaan. And she bore unto him Zimran, Yakshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shuach, being 6 sons. And the children of Zimran were Abihan, Malek, and Nerim. And the sons of Yakshan were Sheva and Dedan. And the sons of Medan were Amida, Yoav, Goki, Elisha, and Nahak. The sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Kanak, Avida, and Eldaiah. And the sons of Yishbak were Mekiro, Beudiah, and Tater. The sons of Shuach were Bildad, Mamdad, Munan, and Maban. All these are the families of the children of Keturah, the Canaanite woman, which she bore unto Avraham the Ivri. And Avraham sent all these away, and he gave them gifts, and they went away from his son Yishak to dwell wherever they should find a place. And all these went to the mountain at the east, and they built themselves 6 cities in which they dwelt unto this day. But the children of Sheva and Dedan, children of Yakshan, with their children, did not dwell with their brethren in their cities. And they journeyed and encamped in the countries and wildernesses unto this day. And the children of Midian, son of Avraham, went to the east of the land of Cush, and they there found a large valley in the eastern country, and they remained there and built a city, and they dwelt therein, that is the land of Midian, unto this day. And Midian dwelt in the city which he built, he and his 5 sons, and all belonging to him. And these are the names of the sons of Midian, according to their names in their cities: Ephah, Epher, Kanak, Avida, and Eldaah. And the sons of Ephah were Methach, Meshur, Avi, and Zanuah. The sons of Epher were Ephron, Zor, Alarun, and Medan. And the sons of Kanak were Ruel, Rechem, Azi, Al-Yeshuv, and Alad. And the sons of Avida were Kari, Malud, Karuri, Molki. And the sons of Eldaah were Mekir and Reva, and Melchiyahu and Gabol. These are the names of the Midianim according to their families, and afterward the families of Midian spread throughout the land of Midian. And these are the generations of Yishmael, the son of Avraham, who Hagar, Sarah's handmaid, bore unto Avraham. And Yishmael took a woman from the land of Mitzrayim, and her name was Rivah, the same as Merivah. And Rivah bore unto Yishmael Nebaioth, Kedar, Adbeel, Misam, and their sister Basma. And Yishmael cast away his woman Rivah, and she went from him, and returned to Mizraim, to the house of her father, and dwelt there. For she had been very bad in the sight of Yishmael, and in the sight of his father Avraham. And Yishmael afterward took a woman from the land of Canaan, and her name was Bakuth. And she bore unto him Nishma, Duma, Masa, Kadad, Tema, Yetor, Naphish, and Kedma. These are the sons of Yishmael, and these are the names, being 12 princes, according to their nations. And the families of Ishmael afterwards spread forth, and Ishmael took his children and all the property that he had gained, together with the souls of his household and all belonging to him. And they went to dwell where they should find a place. And they went and dwelt near the wilderness of Paran, and their dwelling was from Cavilah unto Shur, that is before Mithraim, as you come toward Ashur. And Ishmael and his sons dwelt in the land, and they had children born to them, and they were fruitful and increased abundantly. And these are the names of the sons of Nebaioth, the firstborn of Ishmael: Mind, Sind, Mayon. And the sons of Kedar were Alyon, Kazem, Kamad, and Ali. And the sons of Adbeel were Kamad and Yavim. And the sons of Mifsam were Avadyahu, Aved, Melech, and Yeush. These are the families of the children of Rivah, the woman of Ishmael. And the sons of Mishma, the son of Ishmael, were Shumiah, Zechariah, and Oved. And the sons of Duma were Kazed, Ali, Machmad, and Ahmed. And the sons of Massa were Melin, Mula, Abidon. And the sons of Gadad were Azor, Menzar, and Aved, Melech. And the sons of Tema were Seir, Sadan, and Yakol. And the sons of Yetur were Merith, Yaish, Alyo, and Makath. And the sons of Nephish were Aved Tamed, Avi Akaf, and Mir. And the sons of Kedimah were Caliph, Takti, and Amir. These were the children of Makuth, the woman of Ishmael, according to their families. And all these are the families of Ishmael according to their generations, and they dwelt in those lands wherein they had built themselves cities unto this day. And Rivkah, the daughter of Bethuel, the woman of Avraham's son Yishak, was barren in those days. She had no offspring, and Yishak dwelt with his father in the land of Canaan. And Yahuah was with Yishak. And Arphaxad, the son of Shem, the son of Noach, died in those days, in the 48th year of the life of Yishak. And all the days that Arphaxad lived were 438 years, and he died. Hallelujah. This concludes the reading of chapters 21 to 25 of the Cepher of Yashar. Family, there is a lot of nuggets to take away from what we've read today. This is why I love the book of Jasher, or the Cepher of Yashar, because it gives us the backstory that Bereshit or Genesis does not give us. And for me, it has answered a lot of questions that I have. When I read, there's always mental note to that. I read and I ask questions. But when I first read the Cepher of Yashar, it just cleared up so much for me. I know this video is already long. We're already an hour into it. So please forgive me for adding my 2 cents. Because it's so good. Each chapter build upon each chapter. And I just feel like there's so much rich information that I want to share with you, my takeaways, or at least a few of them, to plant a seed for you all to think on and meditate on and do further research for yourself, and to seek Yahuah to give you revelation on what he wanted you all to take away from this. And also, please forgive the background. It's very windy right now outside, so it's picking up a lot of that. And also, please forgive me for any of the names that I may have did not pronounce correctly, but doing my best. Each reading, it just gets easier and easier for names that I'm not used to reading. But it's gotten easier over time. So, like I said, forgive me this time as well as other readings in the past if they were not pronounced correctly. All right. So the first point I'd like to make is in Yashar is in chapter 21. It's verse 31, where Avraham says, "Put away this nail of the tent which you have placed here, and place another nail in its stead." Just a little quick backstory with the Hebrew alphabet. That's the original alphabet, if you will. With the alphabet, our letters actually have meaning. It's just not like the traditional alphabet, which A, B, C, D, and they mean nothing. They're just a letter. So like the first letter is Aleph. Aleph, it means strong. It's an ox, etc. and so forth. It's the number one. So in this case, in relating it to the verse I just mentioned to you in 31, nail in the Hebrew alphabet is the Vav, which represents the letter V or W. And some additional definitions or meaning is peg, add, and, joining together, hook, making secure, becoming bound or nailed to. And you can also go to Tehillim or Psalms chapter 119 and reference the verses 41 through 48, and that's where you'll find this letter. But ultimately, what I thought was interesting is that Avraham referred to Ishmael's woman as a nail. And she's the one holding things down, if you will. Like a nail would secure something, just holding it down. And then also, he mentions put away this nail of the tent. So just to give you a heads up, for the Hebrew alphabet letter for tent is bet. So that represents the letter B, which is house, it's the body, it's family. And in this case, it's representing, or in this verse, it's the tent. And so the nail is holding down the tent. So the woman is taking care of the household. But I'm not a Hebrew language expert. Please know that. But I am, I am trying to learn the Hebrew alphabet, and I have been for years. And I just, this particular verse just really jumped out at me to share with you, to even encourage you to go back and do your research and learn the Hebrew alphabet and the meanings of the letters. Because it's amazing. It's just so amazing how he leaves clues. And that's also the difference, the Hebrew culture versus the Greek culture. And that's why I choose to read out of the Cepher versus obviously before in religion, I was reading out of the traditional Bible, whether it's the KJV, NKJV, or NLT, because you have more of a cultural context in the Cepher or even the Hallelujah scriptures. What I think is even more fascinating when you get to verse 35 and even 48. 35, Ishmael knew who the nail was that his father was referring to. But by 48, there was a new nail. Avraham had a completely different experience. And Yahuah blessed Ishmael for replacing the nail in his tent, for replacing the nasty woman and putting in a good woman in her stead. Hallelujah. By chapter 22, I took note of verses 11 through 13, that Avraham is such a wonderful example of someone not only who learned the ways of Yahuah, but he walked with Yahuah and walked in Yahuah's ways, and also applied it to his life. And we know that he gave those that came by food, drink. He clothed them. He gave them money. He shared and taught them about Yahuah. And that's what we're supposed to do. So when you get a chance, go and look up, go to Isaiah or Yashayahu, chapter 58, verse 7 through 8, and Matithyahu or Matthew, chapter 25, verse 31 through 40. And it talks about what's important to Yahuah and how we live our lives and how we serve and how we take care of those, take care of others and give back to others, whether it's food, drink, clothing, etc. And I believe even Deuteronomy or Devarim 15, chapter 15 talks about it as well. So shout out to those of you who are taking notes and who are going to go back and read these scriptures scriptural references I just pointed out. Again, sticking in 22, verses 20 and even 26. 20 talks about Deborah, who's the daughter of Utz or Nakor. And I just love the fact that in this case, we find out, well, who did Deborah come from? How does she show up on the scene? Ultimately, like in Genesis or Bereshit. So we know that she is within the house of Tarak. In this case, the daughter of Nakor, or granddaughter of Nakor, but the daughter of Utz. But by 26, Bethiel, he is the father of Lavan and Rivkah. And ultimately, we find out, we see later that that's Deborah's maid or nurse, if you will, by the time she's given over to Yishak as a wife. Verse 40, I love that it just, again, mentions the way Avraham lives, but it made it even more so that it's the importance of teaching your children the way of Yahuah. So in this case, he taught Yishak the way of Yahuah, and Yahuah was with him. When we get to chapter 23, that's a very pivotal chapter. I pray that you go back and read it for yourself again, or if you don't have the Cepher or the Hallelujah scriptures, that you would go back and listen to it again. There's a lot to glean from this chapter, and obviously I'm not going to go through every little detail, but I'm going to try to consolidate as much as I can. I felt that verse 21 was very important. This was not only mentioning about the two men that went with Avraham and Yishak, for the sacrifice, but it lets you know who the men were, because Genesis or Bereshit does not tell us. So I think that it's not a coincidence that it's Yishmael and Eliezer. And I find it interesting that they both, in verses 21 through 24, are going back and forth about who's going to, well, first of all, the call out on Yishak's going to be the sacrifice, but ultimately who's going to inherit the wealth of Avraham as a result of the sacrifice. It actually reminded me of, in the renewed covenant, of the Talmudim going back and forth on who's the greatest, and then we get to verses 25 through 39. What's not highlighted a lot in the traditional Bible that I can appreciate about the Cepher, but in this case, let's just talk about it. We see it's mentioned several times how Satan or Hasatan shapeshifts, and how he reveals himself to or displays himself to not only Avraham and then to Yishak, but ultimately shows up to Sarah, and it is a deceiver. And I think what we can learn from this is, he came to deceive Avraham, and Avraham teaches us why it's important to know the voice of Yahuah for ourselves. And that's why when he came to him as an old man, he rebuked him. When he came to Yishak, and Yishak said, this guy, as a young man, Avraham rebuked him again. And then when he came as a body of water, Avraham rebuked him a third time, and then he stopped with them. But when he showed up to Sarah as an old man, we see that she was easily deceived. And it reminded me, and words are obviously twisted, and it reminded me of the garden experience with Yahuah, how Hasatan was able to deceive her in the garden so easily, and then she was able to that she was able to influence Adam to take part of the apple. But we see that Abraham is so secure in his relationship with Yahuah. He's been walking with Yahuah his whole life. So it was just, I just find it as he is an awesome example of why it is so important to know Yahuah's voice, to sit at Yahuah's feet, to study his word, to meditate on his word, because then you'll know what Yahuah's instructions are. You'll know what his will is for your life because you have spent time with him. And I think before I finish up this chapter in 23, I've already highlighted that Sarah was deceived by Satan. And I think it's important to show that, to know what happened to her, that Genesis does not point out, because we see by verse 86, she was so overtaken with joy that it was a violent joy. I would like to think she had a heart attack. I could be wrong, but whatever it was something that caused her to shocked her so much that she died. So, like I said, I'm calling it a heart attack, and that's just from my perspective. But ultimately, I think one of the things that we can learn from Sarah is in chapter 23, we can see how she had made Yashak an idol. She put him above Yahuah. Like, she cried over him. She gave him instructions. And it tells you her life was bound up in him. And our lives should not be bound up in anybody other than serving Yahuah. And there's a lot of parents or even mothers that idolize their children or idolize their sons. But it's a lesson we can learn from her, is not to make anyone an idol. And lastly, just to point out, by the time we get to chapter 24, Keturah is on the scene. So Sarah has passed away and has been buried. Avraham takes another woman, and we learn that she is a Canaanite, or she's a Canaanite, and he bears 6 sons from her as a result. So there's more. Obviously, there's so much meat in all these chapters, but these are the things that I just want to point out that stood out to me the most, that I wanted to share with you. If you are new to this channel, welcome. I pray that the reading and even any of the commentary I provided as my revelation has been a blessing to you. And as I've mentioned before, you can, if you've missed out on previous chapters, the readings, go to the playlist. You will find the Cepher of Yashar, and you can listen to those to catch up with us, as well as any other readings in between the times that I do post readings. There is other books that you can read and meditate on and continue your walk and growth with Yahuah. Those of you that have been rocking me, I thank you just for your support, and even any of the comments you've placed over since the channel started. If you haven't already, please share, like, and subscribe. Ane ahabata mashbeka. I love you, family. Yahuah barakata. Yahuah bless you. Shalom.